Good evening and welcome to Sunday Wire. I'm Bryan McClain, sitting in for Patrick Henningsen once again. This week, the world watched one funeral, but perhaps witnessed two. The first was the funeral of Iran's longtime supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, which we discussed last week. If you missed last week's show, we had Patrick Henningsen deliver a video report from the site, and we may get a little more of that today. But as we discussed last week, millions of mourners filled the streets in one of, if not the largest public gatherings in the country's modern history, an event that many Western audiences will only glimpse through carefully selected images and familiar talking points. But, whatever one thinks of the Iranian government, the scale of that public response is noteworthy. It challenges this narrative that we've heard for years, for me, my whole life, that Iran is perpetually on the verge of collapse, one crisis away from implosion. At the very same moment, those funeral processions were unfolding. The United States was reportedly expanding its military campaign, striking transportation infrastructure inside Iran. Diplomacy has given way to coercion, negotiation has been replaced by escalation. And once again, the language of statecraft is being written in missiles instead of meetings, right? And that's what we were all hoping for. Of course, we were very skeptical about it here at the Sunday Wire, but that's just because we watch what the trends do. But the MOU looking pretty shaky right now. So later in the program, we'll hear directly from Patrick Henningsen, who has been on the ground in Iran during these extraordinary events, bringing us a perspective that few, oh, so few Western journalists have been willing or able to provide. We're also going to examine the sudden death of Senator Lindsey Graham, one of Washington's most influential advocates of interventionist foreign policy for quite a while now, more than a couple decades. His passing marks the end of a political career that for many became synonymous with the post 9/11 era of American military projection. So this is where it gets tricky, though. We're going to try to separate the confirmed reporting from the speculation already circulating online and discuss what Graham's legacy may tell us about the future of U.S. foreign policy. So, taken together, these stories point toward a larger question. Are we witnessing the reaffirmation of American leadership? Or are we witnessing the limits of American power? For decades, Washington has relied on military supremacy, economic sanctions, and political pressure to shape events around the globe. Yet today's world is increasingly, some would say, multipolar, perhaps more fragmented, and far less predictable than the one that emerged after the Cold War. Military power can destroy infrastructure, eliminate leaders, and alter battlefields, but can it still determine political outcomes? That question may define not only this week's headlines, but the direction of international affairs for years to come. So, on this episode 603 of Sunday Wire, we'll do our best to separate fact from narrative and examine events through maybe a wider historical lens and ask what these developments reveal about the changing balance of power in the world. I'm Bryan McClain in for Patrick Henningsen, and this is Sunday Wire. So, we got a great show lined up for you today, and I can't wait to get into it with everybody. We're going to be joined by Basil. We're going to be joined by Ruckus. And like I said, we have a video report from Patrick. And I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but if he gets into a zone where he's able to call into the show, that could happen. That could potentially happen. So we're hoping that works out. Now, I got to point you to today's Sunday screening next. The Possible List, episode 8, out this year. So, of course, if you're here weekly, you know about the Sunday screening, but we've got a lot of new listeners and viewers dropping in every week. So, the Sunday screening is our weekly documentary film curated by the editorial team here at 21 Wire. And this one's going to be one worth checking out. They all are. They all kind of dovetail with what we do here on the Sunday Wire. And I'll just put it on screen for you guys here so you know where to go and how to find it. It's up at our website, 21stcenturywire.com. There it is right there. So just go to the website. It's on a sticky up there at the top of the website for this week. And yeah, we really hope that you enjoy it and check it out. It's going to be a great addition to, your weekly context, your geopolitical context, all that good stuff. This one, well, I'll just read you the read ahead on it. In a world marked by rupture from Gaza to Ukraine, Myanmar to Kashmir, and across the West, even the act of speaking across divides has become fraught. Veteran mediator William Rye, co-founder of Harvard's program on negotiation, reflects on what it takes to keep dialogue alive when fear, humiliation, and political certainty are pushing people further apart. So you're definitely going to want to check this one out. I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, it's going to be a good one. So the funeral for the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has just been an amazing thing to watch. And I don't know that many Westerners are watching it. Like I said in the intro there, you really kind of have to go find it, follow the right people on social media, follow the right news broadcasts, independent news broadcasts like this one, Sunday Wire. Many of our colleagues reporting on it out there, but it's not really hitting that mass media cartel very much, is it? Have you noticed that? The War Channel, Fox News, as our friend Sam Chaney calls it, they're not covering this. They're not covering this in a way that is honest. None of the Western media is, because it's quite a sight to behold. Khamenei was laid to rest on July 9th, just days ago. And that's following an extended mourning procession through Tehran, Qom, Najaf, and other areas. So this was a huge, enormous public turnout. And the enormous public turnout, for those that are willing to just open their eyes, have eyes to see and ears to hear, it complicates years of Western portrayals of Iran as a state on the verge of internal collapse. I don't even know if the United States would have a funeral procession that big that would affect people, so many people, the way that one seems to have. But what do I know? That's just a hypothetical pie in the sky, and I am just a remote set of eyes and ears. But I am tight with the host of this show, and because of great viewers like you, supporters like you, he's actually able to go to places like this at times like this. So just a quick side note and a plug and a thank you to the members at 21wire.tv, to the supporters, to the super chatters, to people who have come to see any of our live events, bought a t-shirt, whatever, sent to PayPal, sent to crypto. That really is folks like you that allow reports like you're about to see happen. You know, it's that, and of course the bravery, gumption, and awesomeness of Mr. Henningsen. So if you're not a member and you've been thinking about it, we do have all sorts of ways for you to support us. You can find the support link on the show page, 21stcenturywire.com. So, you know, this funeral, it seems like it wasn't just, you know, isolated to a religious or a ceremonial event. You know, what I see is it becoming a demonstration of national cohesion, of continuity, and resistance to foreign pressure. I wonder if Donald Trump ever thought about that as an outcome. I wonder. Now, a large turnout, of course, doesn't erase Iran's internal divisions, but it does challenge the very simplistic assumption that eliminating one leader would automatically dismantle the Islamic Republic. We were told that. There's footage of us being told that. We were told that over and over again. We were even told that it's already happened. We were told that their navy's in tatters, their economy's in tatters. I don't know. Certainly doesn't look that way. Certainly doesn't sound that way. Now, Washington and Israel, they may have removed an individual, but my question is, did they just strengthen the political mythology surrounding him? I think that that's very possible. So with that, let's without further ado, let's bring Patrick Henningsen with a video report from Iran on board here. I hope you enjoy this. I myself have not had a chance to see it yet, so much like you, I will be sitting back and taking all of this in. This is Patrick Henningsen, recorded in Iran just hours ago.
Some reflections in the city of Mashhad. This has been an absolutely incredible 48 hours here. We came from Tehran after this massive state funeral procession in Tehran, the capital, on Monday. I think all said and done, I mean, even the Financial Times admitted there's 15 million people in Tehran attending the various ceremonies. So, I mean, that's, in terms of a state funeral globally, I think that's a record. But the final stop was here in the holy city of Mashhad, and this is the second largest city in the Islamic Republic of Iran. And we're sort of in the northeastern corner of Iran. A 12-hour train journey overnight to get here. So it was, flights not available. You can imagine millions of people were here for the funeral of the supreme leader, the Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. And I have to tell you, the atmosphere, it's a very different energy yesterday. And we were there on the street, as you can see. The images, the feeling, the emotion, the passion, all of that was palpable. While the energy was very high and really kind of defiant in Tehran, it is a megatropolis, but in this city it's a little bit different because it's the final stop in a 6-day procession. It wasn't limited to Iran. They took the remains of the supreme leader and his family to Najaf, which is also a holy city with some of the most prominent Shiite shrines there, and scholars from that branch, the Iraqi kind of school of Shia Islam, and then back again to Iran and here to Mashhad. I think this holy city of Qom as well, they had a procession there. Again, millions of people attending in all of these locations. Collectively, I mean, we said this at the beginning of the week. We said that, you know, at some point, upwards of half the population of Iran, it's hard to calculate, but just based on the collective numbers of these 3 or 4 locations in Iran, not counting Iraq, upwards of half the population will have participated in this event in one way or another, either in person or one of the smaller sort of satellite events. So that, if you think about that, that's incredible for a city with a population of, well, Mashhad, I don't know what the population here is, but Tehran, 12 million, and Mashhad's slightly smaller, or a lot smaller, but the country, 90 million people in Iran. So I think that, suffice to say, this is a very religious country, despite what the Western media attempt to portray it as. And a very good majority, I think, of people in this country revered their supreme leader. And let's not forget, he was assassinated by the United States in Israel. That's a head of state that served his country. He's been there for his people for 37 years, and before that as well, as a key figure in the Islamic Revolution. So this was a very popular leader, very much revered, very much the spiritual leader, political leader, military leader, and just a teacher for generations. We've spoke to so many people. I don't know how many interviews I've done with Iranian media asking me what myself as an American, what my view of the supreme leader is. And that's a hard question. I don't know what it's like to have grown up with the sort of father figure of the country for 2 generations. But I assume that it was a big part of people's lives. And again, he was very well respected and revered. He's demonized in the West. That's expected. Portrayed as a terrorist mastermind, a mad mullah. These are all the sort of Walt Disney level caricatures that the West cultivate about their political opposition. So the truth, of course, is something completely different. And you can tell by the outpouring of emotion from Iranians at the loss of their leader. They're also reflecting on his life, his time, the country's kind of evolution, if you will, post-revolution in 1979. These are all, you have to kind of bring all of these things together in order to kind of assess what these things mean. And this is a kind of analysis, or at least just a kind of basic consideration that Western media don't engage in. They're really just defaulting to, like I said, Disney level cartoon stereotypes. That's kind of what it boils down to. And what I've learned here, just in the short time I've been here, but a very intense time, and around the country, is that nothing could be further from the truth with regard to the Western depiction of the Iranian leader, Iranian society, and what people really think and feel. And I've reported on all the various things that have happened, the war, the U.S. and Israeli induced riots. The U.S. is on record admitting they trafficked weapons into the hands of peaceful protesters. So I get trolls in the comment thread saying things like, you're an IRGC propagandist. And this man killed 50,000 of his own people in cold blood. Total lies. I was here in February to debunk those narratives post-riot, and we did our own investigation and looked at the evidence in Iran, spoke to police. We showed images of a lot of the damage done by these rioters, spoke to the families, victims, the innocent bystanders, all of that. So I don't really want to go into that, but it's just amazing how powerful the propaganda is, that they're still using that trope in order to sort of cultivate their own narrative with regards to what it's really all about here. And the West are just kind of stuck in this ghetto, this intellectual ghetto, where people rely on very corrupt mainstream media organizations. Everyone knows the mainstream's corrupt, yet people still rely on them for the, to inform them about geopolitics and what life or politics or political leaders are like in countries like this. This country's at war with America. They have been for 40 years, 40 plus years, 47 to be exact, and Israel. And propaganda is an important part of that. That's how America and Israel get buy-in from their own populations to wage war. They need to tell lies. And those lies need to be more outrageous and more ridiculous than, anything you could, anything that's plausible in a real world. Now, the overall energy, let's talk about the procession yesterday. The energy was very heavy. And at times, it was very quiet. I'm walking through a sea of people, as I'll show you some footage. Walking through a sea of people, and there's a grief there, there's a mourning there, and at a certain point in the afternoon, waiting for the remains to arrive, as the people gather in their millions, there is this kind of heavy energy where everyone's realizing this is it, this is the final goodbye to their leader, and much beloved, I have to say. There's no doubt about that. And much respected and much revered. And so you could feel that energy. And then there's also an energy of defiance later in the evening. And as the sort of festivities take on a different characteristic. And that's to be expected. Certainly no one can be surprised at that. I can't. Nobody can. Nobody in their right mind can, because of what happened at the end of February, beginning of March of this year. The United States and Israel assassinated a very popular, long-serving head of state and his family. And what did his family do? What did his 14-year-old granddaughter, or it's 14-month-old, pardon me. I mean, children were killed in that airstrike. What did they do to the U.S.? What did the Supreme Leader ever do to the U.S.? What did Iran ever do to the U.S.? Well, it's a pretty extensive record of what the U.S. has done to Iran, not vice versa. That's why, again, all the propaganda is constructed to sort of justify this kind of, aggressive stance towards Iran. So it's important that we put all of that in its place. But so there was an absolute, total defiance, and wide-ranging calls to avenge the death of their leader. A lot of Americans will look at that and think, "Oh, they want us. They want to kill us." Because Americans are amazing, and Westerners, they just think they live on such a pedestal in this kind of colonial, very strange virtual colonial world that they're still residing in. It's a type of a matrix. And they just can't believe that somebody halfway across the world would want to avenge, avenge the death of their president by, inflicting harm on U.S. presidents or politicians or whatever. But they don't even give a thought. They don't even give a thought about it, about what the U.S. have done, with no justification whatsoever, to the Iranian leader and his family, to society here, the sanctions, the deprivation, the economic warfare, the bombing of Minab's school in the southern part of Iran, slaughtering 168 odd young girls I mean, what was the point of this but to anger the Iranian population? Is that what it is? Because that was the end result. So, you know, Americans are very detached from all this. They just don't see, they just assume, oh, well, you know, our governments, our media say it's a terrorist state, so it must be. And then that was the end of that. So this is the problem. You know, now the U.S. is so deep in the hole on this that, so deep in the hole, they don't even really have a strategy to get out of that hole. They've just got all these sort of flailing tactical maneuvers to try to ameliorate the damage they've already done to themselves, to the region, to the global economy, to their own economy, and of course, most of all to Iran. So there it is, folks. That is the reality of the situation. It's quiet today here in Mashhad, but last night, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., it was full steam out here, and the crowds were out in the millions practically till the dawn. It was really a sight to see. It's a powerful display of collective purpose, really. It's hard to put it into words. I've been to some of the biggest protests. I've been to the biggest events. I've seen a Pope state visit. I've seen all of this. And I haven't seen anything that even remotely compares to what I have witnessed here in Mashhad and in Tehran. Tehran with the Grand Masala, Grand Mosque, funeral processions on, I believe it was Saturday and Sunday, Friday, Saturday. And then, of course, the big street procession in Tehran on Monday, which was just mind-blowing. We reported on that. You've probably seen our socials with some of that. So it's definitely been, this is my third visit to this country. Mind you, I'm getting journalist visas, so we're only giving a very short time. And it's war right now. The U.S. is at war. Israel is still at war with Iran. The U.S. has just bombed yesterday. In fact, they bombed the train line that we took from Tehran to here. It's an overnight 12-hour train. They bombed a train bridge. So that's caused massive delays. It's isolated a lot of people for the time being until they can do the necessary repairs to that line. But the U.S. would have the temerity to just do a mass bombing campaign, hitting 80 targets in this country during the state funeral. I mean, that kind of shows you where the U.S. is, which is absolutely crazy and insane. But there you have it. There you have it. That's, yeah. So there aren't many Americans here in, so I'm a bit of an oddity. There are a couple of journalists, not too many. A couple of my colleagues here are American, not too many. But it's an interesting point of view. And I've had some great conversations, and despite what our U.S. government, what the Trump administration have done and are continuing to do to this country, I say the Iranian people, almost 100%, have been absolutely hospitable, have been absolutely gracious, and have been the most wonderful hosts that you could ever wish for at every single interaction, including being out in the street in a crowd, like being pushed in crowds with, thousands and thousands of people into small streets. And, we were in those sort of situations, and people were very considerate, very helpful, and not aggressive, or everybody had this sense of very clear purpose of what they're doing and why they're there. And it was extraordinary. I've never felt that level of energy in a crowd before. And the religious, spiritual element has a lot to do with that, as does the war backdrop, as does the absolute commitment to their faith that these people have. And I've learned a lot about Shia Islam, especially during this visit. Spoken to many religious adherents, and including some clerics, about various things. And a lot of people have a very interesting geopolitical worldview, much more sophisticated, much more nuanced than anything that you would find in Europe at the moment. So that should be something people need to consider. This is an incredible country. These are incredible people. This is a 5,000-year-old. I said 3,000 the other day. One of my Iranian colleagues corrected me. He said 5,000-year-old civilization. So a civilizational state has managed to navigate through some of the roughest waters globally and geopolitically, militarily, politically, economically in the last 12 months, but really in many years preceding this. And that is something. That's the Iranians, this society, this culture, this country is exceptional on many levels. One can only wonder what it would be if it wasn't under crippling sanctions, or the currency wasn't being attacked from the outside, and they weren't being militarily attacked, and having their leaders assassinated and all of this other stuff. What sort of country would they be? Probably incredibly successful on the world stage. In some ways they already are. So that's also something to think about. But this has been a very, very interesting and a time for reflection here in the city of Mashhad. And I've got a greater appreciation for a lot of things about this country, its people, its culture, its history, and its faith. And so hopefully we'll be looking at some of these issues more. We'll be talking to you more. And again, I appreciate your our support from our viewers in the comments. And there'll be a few more reports coming, but you can look at some of the shorts I posted on X and Instagram, some of the sort of shorter reports on this. But I appreciate you guys. 21st Century Wire. Look, like and subscribe this video on YouTube, and there's a link below. Consider supporting us at 21wire.tv. Subscribe and become a member, or donate. Whatever you can do to help us. It's people like you that allow people like me to come to places like this to bring you the truth. Take care. All the best.
All right. Wow. That's just, it's so amazing to see what it looks like there, what it sounds like there, to sort of be there with Patrick. Good walkabouting. Yes, absolutely. Just observing that is so wild to me. It's really, really just such a stark difference in what we're told about Iran and about the Middle East in general. And we're going to break for Overdrive in a moment here, but my goodness, one thing I wanted to point out real quick here is the Sunday screening. Let me put that back on the screen here for you. I had it on the wrong one earlier, so get you the right image up so you can see it here. There you go. Boom, Sunday screening, The Possibilist. There you go. So that's up there at 21st Century Wire. And one other thing I would like to point out is that that probably your mainstream media, Western media, is not really wanting to talk about much right now, is the amount of other world leaders and representatives that went to attend this to show their respect. I think it is noteworthy that Medvedev led the Russian delegation at the Iranian supreme leader's funeral. And you might be asking yourself, okay, so Russia sent Medvedev. What's the significance there? Well, I would point to the deal that was made. Perhaps you can see it right here. Back in 2025, Russia and Iran signed a strategic partnership agreement that includes provisions for countering shared threats. The pact stops short of mutual defense obligations, unlike the security agreement Russia has signed with North Korea. So that is something I hope that we haven't all forgotten, because Vladimir Putin was very specific about the terms of that. I think that was in the fall of 2025. If I recall, we were reporting on that in October of 2025. I might be wrong, but that's where my memory places that. And I always have this in the back of my head when we talk about the US-Israeli war of aggression against Iran, because it's not like it could not lead to wider involvements. And on top of that, it wasn't just Russia. Which countries sent heads of state or government? Well, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Armenia, Georgia, Turkey, India, China, Russia, Afghanistan, Bangladesh. So, for Westerners out there thinking that this event that had probably more than 20 million people at it was just happening in a vacuum and, not having far-reaching effect to other countries, think again. Think again. All right, we're going to take a brief break here. We're going to bring the real anthem onto the stage here while we reorganize, and we will be right back with you for the Overdrive section of this week's Sunday Wire. I'm Bryan McClain in for Patrick Henningsen. We'll be right back with you after this from the real anthem. Find links to the real anthem on the show page.
Cover in the dark, secret wars are waged, quiet army sabotage, bloody attention remains, global faces of a crime, the sleight of hand betrays. Something slept inside their hearts as explosions rage. The system breaks as truth increases. The grip on us and the world order ceases.
Welcome back to Sunday Wire, episode 603. I'm Bryan McClain, in for Patrick Henningsen while he's on travel and doing journalism out there. If you're just joining us, Patrick just finished a video report that he recorded just hours ago. So this show will be up on all of our services and, of course, at 21stcenturywire.com and alternatecurrentradio.com, where you can also support both ACR and 21 Wire from their respective websites. And we do appreciate that. And, of course, hit the like button, the subscribe button. And if you're feeling really generous, hit that share button on whichever system you might be on. Hello to everybody out there watching live on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, on BitChute, and all the other wonderful podcasting, video, and audio platforms that we reach out to after the show. We're in the Overdrive section here. I'm going to be joined by Adam Clark, otherwise known as Ruckus, and Basil Valentine. Right now, let's bring everybody aboard here. Basil, welcome to the Sunday Wire. How are you this evening? I see you're not at the lake cabin today.
No, not today. I'm on tour. I'm down in sunny Cornwall. And indeed,
right.
It is sunny, perhaps the last day of the intense phase of the heat wave. We've got about 32 degrees Celsius, around 90 degrees Fahrenheit at the pavement, but I've been treated to a wonderful display by the local Sea Cadets brass band who were marching up and down the street outside earlier.
Well, I guess our timing was good. I wouldn't have wanted to bring you on with the marching band going outside, I suppose.
No, they finished a couple of hours ago. Yeah, all dressed up in uniforms in this heat and everything. I hope nobody fainted or got into any difficulty.
Wow, you're even hotter there than we are in Texas right now. We'll join you in the 90s very soon here, but at this point in the day, it's not quite noon yet, and it's still 86 degrees. So I hear it's hot in the south of France as well.
Yeah, hot all over Europe. Strangely, some parts of northern France are hotter than southern France. We've got this new term now, a heat dome.
Yes.
Which is the result of settled high pressure, which we've had for some time, which tends to mean that it just sort of gets warmer and warmer by the day. But the weather on a day like today is always going to be perfect because it's a day of genuine celebration, is it not? At the death of the truly repulsive Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. I want to get you guys' thoughts on Patrick's video, but we definitely are gonna get to that. Let me also welcome Adam Clark to the show. Ruckus, how are you? Welcome to Sunday Wire 603.
603, is that what time it is?
Not quite.
Feels like it.
Yeah.
Yes, good morning, or I guess good afternoon, or I suppose good evening, or hello in the future, or hello in the past. Time is a tricky thing, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, what a way to wake up today. It's to hear the sad news. Anyways, yeah, so lots to get into today. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you, Basil. Very nice to see you in a more secure location than usual. I mean, that picture that you're using, I've seen that picture shown across social media where, like, in that same spot where you're sitting, there's like a blood stain in the back behind your, like where you're sitting, like as if somebody had been shot in the head or something. It's crazy. I don't know if you've seen that wild picture floating around the internet.
I haven't seen that, no.
Oh yeah, I'll dig that up and send it to you. But yeah,
thank you.
Good to see you nice and safe in a sunny location. It looks beautiful there outside, or no, sorry, you're indoors, but nice to see you.
Yeah, we can see that sunlight splashing on the wall there, Baz. So let me ask you guys, Basil, what do you think about the whole Iran is collapsing narrative after seeing Patrick's videos, back in March, as well as the stuff that he's shown since he's been there on this trip? Is that talking point dead now to anyone who's been paying attention?
Well, it's wishful thinking, isn't it, that Iran is collapsing? It was hoped that there was going to be this popular uprising. I mean, the myth still prevalent among aspects of the chattering classes in the West, in Britain and America, is that the people of Iran hate their regime. All the women are terribly oppressed. They're just looking for an opportunity to overthrow the government. Simple as that. And it's only extreme repression and the murder of, what was it, 40,000 protesters or something, that is keeping the lid on the situation. Well, as is evidenced by the millions that turned out for the funeral of Ali Khamenei, that obviously is not the case. I don't think we have the same idea about government in the West that they do in Iran. I think it's more closely tied up with religion. Now, obviously, that was, certainly that has been the case for the last 45 years or so since the Iranian Revolution. But I don't think, I'm guessing slightly here, that Iranians, well, you can say they haven't had the chance, but I don't think they're as fickle in their choice of politicians or in their attachment to the sense of national identity as we might be in the West. Am I making any sense, Hesher?
Yeah, that makes total sense, and it makes me think just about the sheer mass, right? Like it makes me think about 20 million people. What 20 million people looks like. I remember when Obama was president, that was when in America we started seeing reports of the Million Man March, and it was always like a huge goal to have 1 million people
That's right.
in Washington D.C., right? But in Washington D.C., they cannot get 1 million people. They
No.
big crowds, but they can't get millions of people. It's arguable they can even get hundreds of thousands of people. And here we when we think about large public gatherings, especially planned ones that have government approval, state approval, police planning around it, and that kind of thing, you cannot do that for 20 million citizens, right? Like Iran, it's clearly a a state organized ceremony, but you can't organize 20 million people. You can't bus in 20 million people paid by an NGO with a sign and a packed lunch and a hotel voucher. You just can't do it. Some figures are citing 25 million people. I don't
Wow.
if it's even 2 million people, we would not see that here in the United States. And if we did see 2 to 20 million people gather organically, even if it was a state.
People would be talking about it as the biggest national event in the history of the United States, and
Yes.
if not the
Yes.
history of the world, and all this stuff. So
And you would not
yeah,
be
no,
able to stage manage it. You would not be able to,
no.
manipulate it the way all of our protests and marches are these days.
And you certainly can't shame or coerce or force by peer pressure that number of people into attending. I mean,
No.
what it indicates is the depth of the sort of apathy and listlessness that now pervades Western nations. I mean, the Queen Elizabeth II was supposed to be, the greatest monarch in the history of modern Britain, if not the history of the modern world. A tiny, tiny fraction of that number turned out for her funeral because, in the West, we'd always rather watch the ball game or have another slice of pizza or play with your phone or, do you know what I mean? There's these endless sort of assorted distractions and irrelevancies that mean there just isn't the same sense of national cohesion in Western countries that there clearly is in Iran. And the idea that that could somehow be broken by a few well-placed bombs and a few armed Kurds with Mossad operatives in amongst them is ludicrous. It's unbelievable that anybody ever thought it could fly. Now, as I said, people are still parroting the 40,000 murdered protesters narrative. That's like beheaded babies and babies in ovens and all that other nonsense from October the 7th. For people that want to believe all that, they're determined to hang on to it because they can use it as a stick to beat what they call the Islamists. This is the new term, Islamist. You're not just Muslim anymore, because Muslim is a recognized religion, and in pluralistic societies in the West, we respect Muslims as we do Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, or anything else. But Islamist, now that's somebody who wants to take over your country and turn it into an Islamic state. And that apparently is not just all the Iranians, every single man-jack one of them, but every Palestinian as well. I mean, according to the late Lindsey Grahams of this world, so at least there's one less, cretin like that wandering around spouting that poisonous garbage.
Yeah. And Ruckus, you and I were talking yesterday, and you just recently were working on a mixtape over at Alternate Current Radio, and you were going through old news clips from the era. And what Basil just said there kind of made me think about that. You made a really good point about sort of how long running much of, many of these talking points have been. I mean, how does that strike you today with 20, looking back at the funeral here of the Supreme Leader, 20 million people in the street, maybe 25 million. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Well, maybe like ABC and CBS would have actually flown out there and covered it the way Patrick had done 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's been a great amount of change about the way things are covered. Like the mainstream either does like a full spin and goes like down the long rabbit hole, or they just like do a quick hit, brush it aside and move on. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where we're at now, especially with the geopolitics news coming to the Americans, which is Trump screams something in all caps on Truth Social, and everybody runs with that, and that's the official narrative. So they're like, yes, everyone hates Iranian leader. There's nobody at the funeral. And then so the people don't even bother looking, they tune it out. And then so if they happen to run into it and see a picture like that, they might be like cognitive dissonance. I don't know how deeply it's being brushed aside, how poorly it's being reported, but there's like nobody out there. It's like Patrick and maybe 2 or 3 other like independent underground reporters, you know what I mean, from America. And it's like, and nothing. It's like crickets over here. It's crazy to me. And Trump being the way he is, I mean, God forbid if anything should happen to him, because I know he's going to live forever, right? He's special like that. He'll never die. But let's just assume that one day he does. He'll probably make plans in advance that however many people attended Khamenei's funeral would be outnumbered by Trump's attendees, because he'll make sure that he'll make it happen. You know what I mean? Just saying. Like, he's very competitive like that.
Yeah, really.
I'm just going to the coverage Ruckus mentioned. The policy now of the major networks is no attempt must be made to humanize the people of the country that we've identified as the next enemy. We must not hear not only their official spokesman, but also we mustn't hear from people on the street. We mustn't see their faces. They have to be completely othered, and if not actively demonized, then certainly ignored, so that when we blow them to smithereens, nobody's too upset.
Right.
Well,
and I failed to answer your question, Hesher, about the datedness of the story. Yes, when I was looking up some news clips from 1970s, 76 to be specific, so 50 years ago, so the country was celebrating its 200th bicentennial in context, but there were these news reports going on about like conflicts with Lebanese terrorists and Palestinian gunmen, and conflicts in Syria, and these attempts at peace deals that were falling through, and you could hear it and listen to it, and you'd be like, wait, is this from today? Is this yesterday's news, or is this? No, this is from 50 years ago. It was quite striking. So to your point about that, Hesher, but yeah, so these things have been going on apparently for a long time, which is weird because we kind of joke about how Netanyahu is always saying like, well, Iran's been building a nuclear bomb for 40 something years. I'm like, well, maybe they've been spinning this that way. I know certainly that Netanyahu's been saying that probably for as long as that, right?
Oh yeah, going back 30 to 40 years.
Oh yeah, and Libya too, apparently building a bomb, and Syria.
Yeah, there you go. There's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Sticky Marks, for the $10 super sticker there. That's amazing. One down. Lindsey Graham is a dead bug now. Sorry, but good.
We had another one earlier chat. Another super chat earlier in the show that you might have missed, Hesher, just so you know.
Oh yeah, I did. I haven't been able to keep my eye on the chat and keep this flowing. So thank you for that and all the comments. We'll do our best to get to the comments when we can. But Basil, that you said something that struck me there. You said something like the news here in the West, they want us to just think this is no big deal, whatever. And it's like that's hard for a lot of people when it's hard for a lot of people just the whole thing in general. Why are we doing this? Why is this all for Israel or what does this do for America? That kind of level. But when you really think about it, they killed Khomeini's daughter, son-in-law, and grandchild in that strike. And they, it's very clear, very clear. We saw the small coffin, the very, very sad small coffin that no one ever wants to see in that procession. So I don't know, do you think that makes it harder for people to look the other way at this point when it's such just odious, wanton, widespread murder to get one person?
Well, I mean, we've had so many murders over the last few years, haven't we, in Gaza and Lebanon, and that it's just another one. I think people are becoming rather numb to it. I think that might be the agenda. I mean, day after day through 2024 and 2025, dozens of Palestinians were killed, and an Israeli spokesman even went on an air and said, we can kill dozens of Palestinians every day and it barely creates a ripple. Yippee. Legacy media in the West has done everything it can to downplay the slaughter there, and indeed to downplay the slaughter in Iran. The 140 schoolgirls that were killed, that has gained some traction. That's been quite widely publicized, but it was a mistake, collateral damage. There's always a ready-made answer for that. I don't think many people know that Khomeini's 14-month-old granddaughter, thanks to Kimmy Phoenix for giving me the precise age, that Khomeini's 14-month-old granddaughter was killed. I'd be surprised if 1 in 25 Americans knew that. I should think it's less than that, because these events are just not given the coverage. I mean, Khamenei, of course, was demonized as a sort of theocratic autocrat, as a dictator, effectively, a dictator obsessed with getting his hands on nuclear weapons. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. He actually had issued a fatwa on the development of nuclear weapons because they kill so many innocent civilians. So, and he was also apparently, a tremendous scholar of Islamic history and of his country's history. These people they're not like, alcoholic, in the closet, brain dead homosexuals like Lindsey Graham was. The caliber of individual in the Iranian leadership is obviously comfortably superior to that of leadership in the United States. But I mean, you could say that the caliber of leadership in the average supermarket in a town of 50,000 people is a lot better than the leadership of the United States at the moment. It's not saying an awful lot.
Yeah,
but
low bar.
Very, very low bar. Yeah. Go on, Ruckus. You look like you want to say something.
Well, I just caught an interesting comment. It's I can't read it. OCC Doc 8423 from the YouTube says that people in the United States do not value human life unless it's an American life. And well, that may or may not be true because I'd be hard pressed to prove that most Americans care about other Americans' lives. I mean, it's just, I'm serious. I know it sounds like a joke, but I mean, it's not good. It's not bad, but that's an excellent point. Just to in general, any society having no value on human life outside of its own is a bad thing. But I mean, it's even worse when they have like no such value for their own society's lives and well-being. This is not a good starting point for this type of, like, geopolitics should just be off limits to most Americans.
So it's the United States of apathy.
It certainly is. And I mean, degree of news coverage, the hours and minutes devoted in corporate broadcasting and the inches of newsprint devoted to deaths are directly proportional to the distance that those deaths occurred from the home country, as it were. So in other words, if 500 people die in Argentina, it means much less to us in Britain than if 500 people die even the other side of the channel in Holland or something. Distance creates separation and indifference, quite simply. So, I mean, the Venezuela earthquake has been an enormous disaster, but very quickly forgotten about in Europe here, other than, of course, teams of people taking aid over there now, and the occasional miracle story of somebody being found alive under the rubble. But apart from that, it's gone from the news cycle because it's so far away. But if it had happened in Scotland, it would be all over the news every day. I mean, that's why Sudan doesn't get anything like the same coverage as Sudan and the Congo. Thousands of black people dying. Well, I mean, that's neither here nor there to most Western readers.
Right. Like I think back to when the Grenfell Tower incident happened. It was, it was huge news to us, obviously, and our audience. But the mainstream media had it also until they had something else, until the final, you know what I mean? It was like, we're on it, we're on it. Now we're on something else.
That's
we never
right.
got a final death toll. We never got a lot of final information that would have completed that story. And it's the same here in the United States. I think back to the massive flooding that we had here in Texas last year, or in the Carolinas recently. It's like, it's the story, and then it becomes an inconvenient story because people start questioning, well, what is FEMA doing right now? How are they helping? And what are the final numbers? And who got the short end of the stick and who didn't survive? What are the stories? It's like, as soon as another, and I could say the same about the fires in Maui. It's like, we're on it. Oh, squirrel, we see something else. We're not going to complete this investigative journalism. Right. There's no investigative journalism allowed to proceed. And I could use Maui as another example of that, because they fenced it off. You couldn't even fly a drone over it. You couldn't drive into it. You couldn't go to your business that had burned down. They tried to say it was illegal. They were arresting people for trying to do it, but they had to let them all go because it's not illegal.
That's right. These days you get 24, 48, at most 72 hours of sensationalism.
Yes.
And then nothing.
Yes.
And then nothing. And then the page is turned and we all forget about it very quickly. There's no ongoing forensic investigation or anything like that. But of course, let's remember, guys, there is one group of people among whom every single death is a tragedy of unimaginable size, importance. I think Ruckus knows where I'm going with this, don't you? There's one group of people whose deaths must be remembered and memorialized forevermore because their deaths are so much more important than anybody else's.
Well, they were chosen that way, Basil.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, but that actually leads to a point I was about to make, or an observation, that is that there seems to be a giant disconnect between the numbers too. Like, you can really, when you get to when they pull out, like for your instance, they can take a victim who's like, oh, this is all the horrible things that happened to me, and they happen to be of one particular nationality, and it's like, oh, look at this is terrible, and look what these horrible people did to them. And it's just they're focusing on one person or one death, one tragedy, one loss, and everybody gets the feels. We can all get involved with the story about any tragedy or any loss or death when it's just like one, maybe two people, right? But then when you're like, oh, well, so 40,000 people just died, it's like we don't even know how to register that. And I don't know if that's like a psychological thing, if it's just a part of being, we have trouble fathoming and relating to understanding and grasping that a large number of the loss of life. And I think we kind of compartmentalize that or treat it differently in our brains somehow. And I think that the powers that be and the propaganda masters understand that and use that to their advantage. That's why they're able to pick out and single and hyper focus on one or two things for their purposes, for their spin, for their propaganda, rather than actually like, hey, let's treat a society and help us grieve together and understand loss and build a foundation that might be spiritual, maybe, rather than all of this military industrial complex murder, kill, death, garbage. Just saying.
Yes, that's right. I was Mind Hack took the words out of my mouth. I just looked up that quote, and he's absolutely right. And in Gaza, we're arguing over the statistics. It's 80,000, 250,000, 700,000. The deaths there are not seen as individual tragedies. If they were, then the wailing would never stop, obviously, nor should it. But instead, the statistic has become a political football,
Yeah, and for our audio only listeners after the fact, what Mindhack wrote there in the chat that we're showing is a Stalin quote: "The death of one is a tragedy, a million is a statistic." That may
That's
ring
right.
truer now than ever.
That's
And
right.
Israel in particular likes to do this. They'll compare. They can weigh on a scale somehow. Like, oh well, you killed one of ours. That's worth 100 of yours, which is just wild to me. And I'll never understand that.
Well,
Yeah. The scale of it all is nauseating, absolutely nauseating. And it's like, okay, my last question to you guys on this topic, and then we'll move to Lindsey Graham, is Washington and Israel's strategy weakening the Iranian state at all, or is it maybe consolidating resistance around it? And I ask that because of the sheer amount of world leaders that showed up for that, and the sins of omission by the Western mass media. What do you think, Ruckus?
I think that's a rhetorical question, sir. And I think you know the answer, and so does the audience. But yeah, seriously. No, obviously. I mean, that's this strange concept that even I understood growing up, as a young adult through adulthood, paying attention or hearing the news, not even paying too much attention. This concept of blowback, we should understand, or at least we used to, as a nation, that we go, poke the hornet's nest somewhere around the world, and they get really angry at us. And then, they allegedly develop into like actual terrorist people that want to do harm against us. But otherwise, they would just be happy to live their lives and ignore us and just do their own thing, and we'd do our own thing. But no, we're so like obsessed with like creating future enemies, is like what I like to call it. You know what I mean? So, but that's, so yeah, I don't think any of this is helping. Not in the way that people would hope, but I'm sure Basil has a better answer.
Oh, I don't know about that, Hesher. Ruckus, it's kind of you to say so. I'm afraid to say you said something last week, Ruckus, when talking about how long this Iran war was going to last, which I thought was depressing, but particularly apt, which is how long has Ukraine lasted now? It's 4 years, isn't it, of attrition and all. Strikes and counterstrikes and rhetoric and rearming and pausing and all the rest of it. And I fear you may be right with respect to Iran and the Straits of Hormuz. I mean, the Israelis aren't going to let it lie. They're not going to suddenly go, okay, you know what? We'll just let the Iranians do their thing, and hopefully they won't attack us. Well, they won't unless attacked again themselves. But they're determined not to allow Iran to enrich uranium or possess any kind of missile that can reach Israel. That's the other thing. Conventional weapons, the ones that they've used over the previous few months to hit targets inside Israel, they want to see all them gone. Well, the only way that can happen is through the invasion. 10 days ago, and we mentioned it last week, there was talk of US troops massing in Iraq to begin a ground invasion of Iran. Well, I can't see that happening, and the political will isn't there for it. That's the thing. Nobody, the few enthusiasts for this war that there were in America are surely dwindling all the time, and they've lost another cheerleader with Lady Lindsay just yesterday. So you tell me, the mood in the States has turned distinctly against any more war, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, this is an interesting thought experiment. This just popped in my head. I hate it when this stuff happens to me. Forgive me, everybody, in advance, because this is pretty wild. Wouldn't it be strange, not that this would ever happen, but what if, like, the United States and the citizenry and everybody get together and say, you know what, we're sick and tired of this because of what you're describing right there, Basil, so this can be ironic, and we want to throw off the shekels, as it were, the control that Israel has over us. We're going to make a hard no and stop the merging of the two militaries, and we're going to completely split ourselves. I mean, it's going to be a very uncomfortable divorce from Israel. And then, as Basil mentioned, Israel's still going to do what Israel's going to do, and that's going to affect the entire world and us. And we're probably going to have no choice but this time around have a huge, overwhelming surge of support for military action continuing in this region, not against Iran, but against Israel. I know that's absolutely effing insane of a theory, but you want to talk about something that Americans currently, as it stand, who have lost their appetite for war, might actually be interested in getting behind. I just put that out there for you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know the numbers of folks that would be thinking in that direction if such a divorce were to happen. And then, I think we could all imagine what the response would be to such a divorce. As pie in the sky as it may sound, it could get real ugly real fast.
Yeah, well, there is more and more talk of political realignment in America. I think more and more people are realizing that the two-party system is broke, that it doesn't work for them. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. 10,000 Americans are registering as independents every week who had previously registered as either Democrats or Republicans. So every week people are getting the form to say, do you want to register as a Democrat, Republican? And they've marked the Democrat box dozens of times, or the Republican box, time after time after time. And they're saying to themselves, you know what? I just can't do this anymore. And are registering as independents. Now, the role of money, the media, and all the rest of it, the sort of sclerotic nature of American politics means it may take a long, long time before this feeds through to anything happening at the ballot box. But the stirrings are there, certainly, aren't they? The political will is building for something completely different in the United States.
Yeah, if that conversion rate to independent were to continue at that rate all year, that would be like 500,000 Americans in 12 months.
Sure.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And you brought up what Ruckus said last week about Ukraine. 5 years in Ukraine, and where are we at right now? Well, in my mind, right now we're 2 years into Donald Trump's presidency when he said it would be cleared up in 2 weeks. That feels sort of familiar. These 2s and 4s come a lot. And it looks like it may escalate. And this is probably a good transition into what happened to Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham has died, and the official statement was that Graham passed away on Saturday evening, that's last night, from quote, from a brief and sudden illness, end quote. That was the statement published by the senator's office today. Further, it added, quote, Senator Graham's family appreciates prayers at this time and asks for privacy during this incredibly difficult period, end quote. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to deliver those, Graham family, this week here on Sunday Wire. We stick to our analysis, and it's a pretty cold analysis when you look at this particular individual who has been a living body haunting a seat on Capitol Hill for over 20 years, specter of war, if you will, a ghoul against the American way, if you will, and someone who championed a very Israeli-focused imperialism and supported an open-air concentration camp and has supported all of these actions that we have been talking about, and also an architect of what we are seeing, a figurehead, an architect, a facilitator, an instigator for what we have seen in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. So many people, not just Americans, worldwide, I hate to say it, are celebrating today to see this person no longer in a seat in Congress for some people and no longer breathing the same air as us for other people who, have grievances against this character. So Lindsey Graham has left the mortal coil, left the plane, and he's been missing for weeks, right? Where is he? Where is he? Is he dead? And then all of a sudden, oh, he's in Ukraine? And then all of a sudden dead.
Yes. He died of a heart attack, Lindsey Graham. Of course, the question is what brought on the heart attack at that particular moment. I've seen some speculation online that he may have been indulging in his favorite pastime when he had the heart attack, that the exertion required to indulge his pastimes is
Where's the report of the heart attack coming from?
Oh, I've seen that quite widely reported that it was a heart attack.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't know. I mean, he was 71, and according to Tucker Carlson, something of an alcoholic. So you're vulnerable at that age if you carry on the same way. We don't know what medications he'd received in years that might have increased the heart attack risk. But in terms of the reaction, yeah, absolutely. Anna Kasparian said, "Good riddance." Usually one likes to be charitable about anybody that's died. There's a very strange case in the UK at the moment of former Conservative Minister Anne Widdecombe, who was found dead on Thursday, and everybody thought at the age of 78 she'd passed away of natural causes, only for it then to be revealed she'd actually died in a brutal assault and had suffered severe injuries. And a man has now been arrested under caution on suspicion of murder. So no such suggestion with Lindsey Graham at all. But we don't know if there was anybody else in the room with him when he died.
True. And to answer your question, Ruckus, emergency services responded to a call for quote-unquote cardiac arrest at Graham's Capitol Hill residence last night. NBC reported this after obtaining police scanner audio. So that's the origin of that one. And the broadcaster over at NBC also said that he had seen photos of paramedics carrying a person on a stretcher from the senator's home to an ambulance. But the thing that is really getting a lot of people is that Graham's death comes one day after his return from Kiev, where he met with Zelensky on Friday. So this has some people asking some questions, and
yes.
Logical questions like, check this out. Let me throw this up on the screen here. Oh, browser lost it. Okay, that's all right. We can regain it real quick here. So at Liberty Lockpod says, okay, get your tinfoil ready. Graham inspected a drone facility in Ukraine yesterday. I assume he's referring to Friday. Russia blew up that facility today, right? Saturday. And then tonight, it's announced that Graham is dead from a quote-unquote sudden illness. I'd say there's a decent chance that Russia blew up Lindsey Graham. And they're writing off of this tweet right here, this X post. Gosh, I'm never going to get tweet out of my head.
That's okay. I think it's passed into the vernacular.
Yeah,
to be honest,
right. I mean? We don't need to worry about it anymore. It's tomato. So Alex Oloyede too says yesterday U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham visited Ukraine to assure Zelensky support of the United States. The warmonger was shown a quote secret drone manufacturing facility in Kiev. Well, this facility no longer exists after strikes by the Russian MOD. Without warning, 6 missiles struck 2 manufacturing facilities in the Kiev region. The MOD confirmed strikes on drone sites, which started a huge fire. None of Russia's ballistic missiles were shot down. Lindsey Graham is no longer in Ukraine. So you can see, and I think I saw someone commenting in the chat saying that Larry Johnson had gone on air and is positing that the timeline doesn't fit for him to even have time to return home and then have this event. So there's a lot of questions being asked right now. It's all, of course, it's unverified. We're looking at timelines. We're, looking at what other people are saying here. So, but it is a valid theory until proven otherwise. Unfortunately, like so many things, it's like we wouldn't have to have, conspiracy theories, quote unquote, if we had a transparent government. But the government has proven to us and the government, the media, the military intelligence, the bankers, the politicians have proven to us over and over and over again that they do not care about us. They do not care if it's $30 for a tuna sandwich. They do not care if you can't afford fireworks on the 4th of July. They do not care if you don't want your sons and daughters in the military going to fight and die in the Middle East for Israel. So
I don't. And they don't care what you believe about the death of Lindsey Graham, I might add, to a certain degree. That this Russia one is like the one that I'm like, this might actually be the injected fake narrative because Laura Loomer jumped on it. And I'm like,
That's right.
Well, there's a red flag here where she's like, did Russia just murder a U.S. senator? I'm just like, oh, well, wait a minute. Are we going to try to go to war with Russia over the death of Lindsey Graham? Like, to your points, both of you and everybody in the chat, is we don't know. And that's what's just absolutely terrible about this time. It could be some sort of weird conspiracy. He could have been swept away in MK Ultra, like Mitch McConnell and some of these other politicians who have gone missing and suddenly reappearing out of nowhere again, except, of course, Mitch McConnell, who is allegedly alive. We know this because he spoke on the phone for approximately 20 minutes each with a couple other fine politicians in America. I trust all of these politicians, don't you? But yes, we can't trust anything. I can't even trust the fact that Lindsey Graham was actually in Kiev. I mean, like, to what degree, to what thing, what timeline should I be following? Which story should I trust? Should I trust Larry Johnson? Can I trust Larry Johnson? Should I trust Laura Loomer? You shouldn't trust Larry Loomer. It's all so confusing and difficult to prove anything. But hey, we have it on good authority, according to a paramedic, that somebody was carried on a stretcher outside of this guy's home. So, that's good enough for me, right? Good enough for you guys. Let's just, wait until Fox News or CBS or CNN tells us what it is. It gets an official Wikipedia entry, and then we watch the funeral for this guy, who will probably not have nearly as many people attend as Khamenei did in Tehran there, but anyway, or in Iran.
Guaranteed. Yeah. And the whole video of a person on a stretcher, that is not compelling to me whatsoever.
Unless the person on the stretcher sits back up like Anne.
How'd that work out for Anne Hathaway?
Is this Anne Hathaway? It was Hesh, right?
Oh, yeah, Anne Hesh. Yeah. Sorry, Anne Hathaway.
So just the way it plays out is that until January, the Republican governor of South Carolina appoints someone to fill Graham's seat for the rest of the year. And then a special candidate filing period is due to open on July the 21st for Republicans interested in running for the seat, and that will remain open for a week. A primary will be held on August the 11th, with a runoff if no candidate reaches 50% of the vote on August the 25th. And the winner will face Annie Andrews, who is the Democratic nominee. Graham himself had beaten an insurgent, Mark Lynch, who appears to be an actual human being, as opposed to a ghoul like Graham. But for all that he's such an appalling character, and not actually personally very popular with Republican voters in South Carolina. It's one of these ways in which American politics has become so stagnant that it's much harder to lose a seat once you're an incumbent than it is to win one as an insurgent, almost irrespective of what you say. I think there's a sort of people like to vote for who they think is going to end up as the winner, so that they feel that they're on the winning side. So anyway, he's gone. Donald Trump's got somebody in mind for the seat, apparently. Hasn't said who it is yet. Be interesting to see if Mark Lynch jumps back in the race. Will Nikki Haley jump in?
Oh, goodness gracious. I would not be surprised.
The APAC candidate, you know. I mean, it'd be a toss-up, wouldn't it, between her and Lindsey Graham as to who was the more hawkish. My God.
Yeah. And up until, the news broke, it was late last night, I was open-minded to the theory that he was already gone and that we were simply waiting for IPAC and the rest of them to, build up a war chest and a, marketing campaign for someone, so that they have control of whoever takes that seat. So that was, one of the light tinfoil things I've been carrying around for the last, since he went missing. But very, very throws a spanner in the works to see pictures of him in Kiev and then have this new timeline and an official announcement of his demise. It's I'm just all shields up, very, very trying to look for the propaganda angle here. One thing I do think, though, is that our government would never admit to us that warmongering Lindsey Graham was killed by the Russians in a military strike. I just don't think, unless the Laura Loomer theory there, Ruckus, holds any weight, I don't think they would admit that if that's what actually happened. And it may just end at
because
that.
wouldn't that make, or allegedly make, people angry at Russia? Aren't we always supposed to be mad at Putin? Putin's bad, right?
Yeah, but the thing about Russia is they're much more transparent. Like when they do something, they will claim it usually, or if they're accused of doing something they didn't do, they're usually pretty good about, defending that. So it would be, and plus it's just like, really, we're gonna go straight for Russia when we got all that? We don't even have the strategic fuel supply. More than half our Tomahawks are gone, because we used them all in at the behest of Israel. So I just don't know. Geopolitically, it seems like a really bad move to try to start a war with Russia over this guy.
If I had to theorize, if there was any fishy business going on, it's an embarrassing death, and that's why they would attempt to cover it up. Because, I mean, why bother? Why wouldn't we just get a straight story? So that's something to consider too. So if anything, it might not be so conspiratorial, other than maybe he was just doing some funny stuff in the bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wouldn't be a surprise.
It's pretty brutal when you look at some of the posts about his demise. It's just really not seeing much of anybody, wishing condolences or having regret or feelings about him being gone. I mean, of course, it's X I'm looking at, so it's just a spurgy mess of outrage and hatred overall anyways. But on this particular one, sheesh. And if Russia did take out Lindsey Graham, or if Lindsey Graham was just unlucky enough to be there when Russia decided to drop the Orishnik or whatever they dropped on those facilities, I don't know. If he was killed in that attack, I don't think they would admit it. And it also makes me think how easily they could take out Zelensky if they wanted to.
Oh, yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel had lost one of its greatest friends, and Israeli President Isaac Herzog said the news had left him shocked and heartbroken. Well, hopefully you'll be so heartbroken that you have a heart attack yourself, Herzog.
Yeah. Mindhack says, I won't be crying myself to sleep, but it's not like it changes much.
No, it's just, he was just a uniquely odious mouthpiece. That was the thing, really. He's used to. I mean, Tucker Carlson said he was charming personally, and he knew him obviously, and he was sort of a warm, gregarious sort of bloke, and always up for a laugh and always pretty sozzled, apparently.
And he's been a staple here on this program as a punching bag, so we will miss him to a degree.
It's true.
But, absolutely odious views. I mean, he said he wanted to nuke Gaza, didn't he?
Sure did.
There you go.
Sure
Yes.
did. A lot of stuff like that in the comments under every post I've looked at about him today.
And allegedly, he's not very well liked from the voting base, which everybody's scratching their head. How does this guy keep getting revoted? Well, I'm sure we know how and why.
Yeah. And it's like, what I just showed there on the screen, it's mean, it's a pejorative. It could be, upset some people. But if we just like remove ourselves from the person, right, and look at the policies, the actions, the outcomes, I think it says a lot about not just Americans, but everybody who is commenting under this, the various pieces of news and posts about this guy.
Yeah.
People don't like the octogenarian, seat warming ghoul, living ghoul, warmongers in DC.
Yeah.
They don't like it. They don't like it so much that they will celebrate the death of another human being. And I think that, that says a lot. That says a lot about how people feel about the nasty, rank imperialism that is driving genocide, ethnic cleansing, and war and destruction and assassination of children and the bombing of civilian infrastructure with American materials.
Speaking of American materials, of course, they were pointing at another American congressman this weekend, Ro Khanna, in the West Bank. That story, of course, has been a little bit overshadowed by Lindsey Graham's death, but we should mention it today before going, because it's made some waves. There's no doubt about it. And Ro has said that he's going to go to every corner of the United States to tell people how abysmally he was treated in the West Bank by Zionist terrorists and their cohorts in the occupation forces, and just how oppressive the situation is there at the moment. So fair play to Ro, who really has become, he's emerged from the shadows, hasn't he, to become a sort of real standard bearer, I would say, for the left, but he's actually got a lot in common with the new breakaway right, the MTG Tucker right, in this new realignment. Of course, he's best pals with outgoing Republican Congressman Thomas Massey in his bid to get full exposure of the Epstein files. But fair play to him. He didn't go on the usual kiss the wall tour and bend the knee and pay all obeisance to the Zionist colony. He went to the West Bank on a trip curated by Palestinians and saw for himself. Well, as he said, it's bad for him, but far worse for the Palestinians.
Yeah, absolutely. That must have been difficult to organize. I have a hard time even imagining how he was able to pull that off, but yeah. And as far as Graham goes, one of the things that I would like to make sure and highlight is his post 9/11 national security establishment support. That is, going back to 9/11, in my mind, that's when the flag was clearly planted for all of the geopolitical conflicts that we've been involved in, seen, done statecraft on since then.
Of course.
So the fact that, he was a champion for rotten deals, unconstitutional legislation such as the Patriot Act, and
Yes.
the annual NDAA and the wrapping of all our federal agencies under the umbrella of the newly formed Department of Homeland Security. I could go on and down the subsequent chain of each of those, but I don't think I need to for this audience. That in and of itself, that period of time, that post 9/11 time when we shifted into a GWAT mindset, a global war on terror mindset, was a turning point for this country. And it has just been abused so much. Our rights have been abused so much. Our financial well-being has been abused so much, and our reputation tarnished, drugged through the mud.
Yeah, of
So,
course. And I mean, on an entirely false premise as well. Nobody in Afghanistan had anything to do with 9/11.
very much
And
so.
yet it was invaded and rubbished for best part of 20 years. Absolutely appalling. I mean, Lindsey Graham didn't have any interest in radical concepts like the truth. He had no desire to see universally applied human rights. We were talking about the value of human life, and he didn't care for human life at all, seemingly anywhere in the world. This is why, while one usually likes to be charitable on somebody's death, not in his case, not in the slightest. Good riddance to bad rubbish.
Yeah, I haven't come across anyone that has it in them to wish him well on his journey at this point, online or in real life.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, I mentioned Ro Khanna there, and he is being touted as a possible Republican candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination candidate, but he isn't listed in the polls, and believe it or not, consistently polling in the lead to have a real clear politics poll average 12 points ahead of anybody else is, now you fill in the blanks, gentlemen. If you haven't been doing your homework, you'll have to guess. Who do you think is the clear front runner for the Democratic nomination?
I don't know. What do you think?
Are you being coy, or do you know?
I think he's a huge fan of the Second Amendment.
No.
Tell us, Basil.
It's an unusual one, because usually defeated candidates retreat into the shadows. You had your chance and you blew it.
Perhaps?
No. For the Democrats, it's Kamala Harris.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was reaching way too far there.
You're
I'm
joking.
not joking. She's 12 points clear of Newsom. She's 12 points clear of Newsom. I know. The conventional wisdom always used to be, if you run and lose, that's it. Goodbye. I mean, certainly you can run for the nomination more than once, but you can't actually run for the presidency more than once. That was kind of if you make it to the last two, you know what I mean? That was kind of the unwritten rule, So, I mean...
So what you're telling me, Basil...
Have people forgotten what a dreadful vice president she was? Have they forgotten what a dreadful candidate she was?
I've not forgotten what a dreadful specter she was over my home state of California. She's one of the architects of the destruction of my state.
Yeah.
If she's in the lead, well, I mean, this is just early stuff, but if they really put her up and it's going to be her against the other guy, right, from the other side, or gal, but I have a feeling, so you're telling me what's going to happen is that we're going to have a J.D. Vance as president next time around, is what you're telling me, right?
Well, if he gets past Rubio,
Oh God, you're making this even worse, bro.
This is getting worse by the moment.
All right, I'm not sleeping tonight. Thank you very much. This has been a blast.
And then imagine a Harris Rubio.
Oh my gosh. I gotta say, I'm a little surprised that Kamala's above Newsom at this point. I find them both to be just complete cutout sock puppet creeps, but Newsom, at least he's good at public speaking. He's good at telling lies, whereas Kamala can't even whip up a good lie. She just cackles and does weird stuff, and yeah,
And
please
at least he doesn't have a proven track record of incompetence at a
yeah,
national level. He's got a
yeah.
proven record of incompetence at state level. She's got an absolutely I mean, have people forgotten all that, her staff walking out when she was VP, and the stories of terrible rows behind the scenes, and
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Train wreck, like most California Democrat
Democrats.
politicians. Wait, that's all of them, almost. Yeah, just an absolute train wreck. Oh my gosh, yeah, and Nikki
Yeah,
Haley, no, please, no, Nikki Haley.
that's
Oh my
right.
gosh.
Yeah. Nikki Haley v. Kamala Harris for the presidency.
Oh,
Yeah, but to
we,
take me to Mars, I'll get in touch with Elon and say, take me to Mars, please.
I'd almost wish for the American Psycho guy if they were going to do that.
yeah. So we've got a lot to look forward to politically in the midterms and in the next big presidential elections, I guess. Oh, I can't. I don't even want to say it. I'm almost glad I'm not broadcasting daily strict news for the midterm selections. In fact, I am glad I'm not doing that. My goodness, because when I was doing midterm elections with TNT in 22, I look back on all that, all the lies, all the propaganda, all the speculation versus what we actually got, and it's like, wow. And then just followed up with all the shenanigans, everything, the lawfare, the Butler shooting, the, anointing of Elon Musk, and the birth of the tech bros slash Trump admin slash Israel admin. I mean, what a bunch of useless bread and circus that took us to a
Yeah,
place that was not the place they told us we were going to.
that's right. That's
So,
right.
so forgive me for not being excited about the midterms or even the next presidential elections. Goodness gracious, yes, asteroid and meteorite 2028. That's what the lineup currently makes me want to switch it to, or like Cthulhu, Godzilla, perhaps.
Speaking of Cthulhu Godzilla, I have a breaking news update courtesy of Laura Loomer. Now, apparently, Iran assassinated Senator Lindsey
Oh
Graham.
my God.
You cannot make this up.
You said it. You said it 10 minutes ago.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
How on earth did they do that? By remote giving him a.
If you want, I can read from her tweet. It's just a
Please do.
screenshot. An Iranian regime account is now claiming Iran assassinated Senator Lindsey Graham. They just released one of their state-sponsored IRGC Lego propaganda videos showing what is supposed to be an Iranian hiding outside of the senator's home late at night and then breaking inside and triggering a cardiac arrest. The video ends with the senator dying inside an ambulance and a person checking the name Lindsey off a checklist. The checklist says, Laura is next. So they're even threatening Laura Loomer herself with a Lego video. This is all the proof we need, everybody. Clearly, Iran killed Lindsey Graham. Bravo. Well done, Laura Loomer. You solved the mystery.
She's doing hardcore geopolitics with the Lego videos. Okay, well, yeah. I don't know if that was the IRGC Lego account there, Larry Loomer. It might have been the Mossad Lego account. Just something you might want to consider.
It also might be one of the most epic trolls I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I mean, it's indicative of the sort of really bizarro stuff that's happening in politics at the moment. I mean, last week in the UK, of course, Nigel Farage fell on his sword, a sword of his own making, when it was uncovered he'd been taking all these bungs, taking all this money, and should he have declared it and registered it in the House of Commons members' interests and all this. So he decided to resign his seat in Parliament and fight a by-election. All the main parties then decided not to run against him because It was basically a publicity stunt and a way of Farage avoiding proper scrutiny for the millions he'd received from dodgy cryptocurrency millionaires and billionaires and all the rest of it. And it looked at the beginning of the week as if the only person that was going to stand against him was the novelty candidate, Count Binface, real name John Harvey, a comedian who regularly contests elections with a dustbin on his head, and whose policies include ensuring that the favoured seaside ice cream in Britain, the 99 Flake, which is a whipped ice cream with a chocolate bar in it, the price has to be fixed at 99p. That's in his manifesto. He's also got some good ideas, like forcing the chief executive officers of the water companies in England that have been polluting the rivers, forcing them to swim in those rivers in the pollution. But they actually had him on Newsnight, the supposedly serious BBC Two late night politics discussion program. They had this guy sitting there with a dustbin on his head. And he was as short as 4-1 in the betting. The bookmakers gave him a 20% chance of winning. Since then, a few other candidates have jumped in the race, and we are past peak Binface.
Wow. All right. You just gave me an idea. Buckethead for president. Buckethead
That's
for
right.
president of the United States.
Hesher, we've got the Supreme. What's the guy's name? Vermin Supreme. We've got that guy with the boot on his head. This guy. There you go. We've got this guy out here, Basil. You seen this guy? Vermin Supreme is his name, and he always runs for political office. I think he usually runs for president, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Right.
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I mean, I think the national mood is heading in that direction, to be honest. I think people are starting to think, you know what? This guy can't be any worse than the ones we've already had. You know?
We're this close to Camacho, guys. This is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we got some plus ones on the Buckethead presidency here. Buckethead equals badass. You are right about that. Buckethead Binface 28. All right, there we go. Now there's a ticket I can get behind. For anyone that doesn't know,
because it is a comedian, John Harvey. If you can find a picture of him, Count Binface. His manifesto includes, number one, I will cut your taxes and raise everyone else's.
oh, okay. I like it. Yeah,
People who use speakerphones on public transport will be conscripted into the army.
Is that
Cyclists
him?
who break the highway code will be forced to ride unicycles instead.
He wears a cape even.
Yeah.
Is that a proper
Neat.
picture I got there, Basil?
Let's have a look. That's the man himself, yes.
Binface.
That's Count Binface, yes, yes.
All right.
Perennial novelty candidate. He's never had it so good, you know.
Well, why the hell not? Let's just go this route. Let's do the most ridiculous things possible and give that a shot, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. You know, we've got a speaking of pie in the sky candidates, we've got this guy here in the United States also, Afro Man. I got to give a big shout out to Afro Man here. I actually got to say hello to Afro Man when I was at the Freedom, what was it called? Freedom Fest in Memphis, Tennessee in 2023. Afro Man was there and he walked past Steve Hook and I, just reeking like ganja with a big old entourage around him. And yeah, I think Afro Man would definitely be a better president than
he was not going to run for president, and then he got high.
Yeah, yep, that's right. But then he got high. So we got some good candidates out here, folks. You know, maybe we should get behind some of these people. All right.
I like Cenk Uyghur's tweet about Lindsey Graham.
What'd he say?
Graham has moved on to the next step in his journey, trying to convince Hades to attack Zeus and Poseidon.
That's pretty clever. I got to give it to him on that. That's pretty clever.
Yes.
All right, we
Yeah.
got to wind this down real quick here, but Basil, can you give us a quick update on the censorship fight in the UK right now? I know there's
Well,
some stuff going on there.
yeah, I mean, people talk about creeping fascism on both sides of the Atlantic. Well, last week it turned into a gallop towards fascism with the passing at breakneck speed of something called the National Security (brackets State Threats Act. Now, this went from draft legislation, which is just what it sounds like, the first version of a bill, to gaining royal assent, meaning that it's now law, within the space of 4 weeks, which is unprecedented. There hasn't been any time for proper debate or anything like that at all. And it appears to be criticizing journalism because you can't use any information that comes from a source that the government deemed to be a hostile actor. I can't remember the exact wording, but the wording is very, very vague, very, very bad legislation. They claim, of course, that there will be safeguards against, safeguards for journalists to carry on doing their work, but we don't believe them. It basically means you can find yourself arrested on terrorism charges for doing things that had hitherto been perfectly legal and which aren't actually materially aiding or abetting terrorists, inverted commas, in any way, but are just simply providing information that is contrary to government narratives. That could include publishing death statistics published by Hamas. That could see you in prison. So more than ever, I am concerned for Patrick's return to the UK and whether or not he will be detained on his way back through into the UK, because we've seen it happen with quite a number of other journalists in recent times. So, and but it's all starting to get very, very, very dark indeed. You're muted, Hesher.
Absolutely, Basil. Thank you. I've had more than a handful of friends, colleagues, viewers, and listeners express similar concerns. So I hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, I'm sure we will hear about it and we will learn from it. But I do hope that Patrick has safe travels, and I do hope that all of us, in all of the Western nations, are able to shake off this kind of censorship, this kind of digital gulag reality that they want to foist on us. Take our voices away, take our opinions away, take our analysis away, make us fear the state, make us self-censor to self-preserve. That is not the 21st century that we were promised at all. Quite a step backward. All right, I'll Ruckus, do you have any comments on that before I go around the room here and shut this down?
Well, because Basil said on both sides of the pond, right, as it were, we've got something brewing here, which we were discussing yesterday on a call with one of our friends and colleagues. But this seems to be inspired by what we've been seeing here in America with the Blade Runners going against the what were they called again? ULEZ. What are the cameras out there in the UK?
Oh yeah, well, there's all sorts of cameras, and I mean, we're now getting facial recognition software as well. I mean, those previous cameras were for reading number plates and charging people driving into low congestion areas via their number plate. And of course, Britain has had traditionally record high numbers of surveillance cameras in shopping centres, on street corners, just about everywhere you can think of. But what we're now seeing is the rollout of facial recognition software. And that means people being, we featured it on UK Column last week, a bloke pulled over by the police using facial recognition software for cycling around town with a Palestine flag on his bike.
That's wild. But yeah, so now there seems to be some pushback, some, if you can call it that, happening here in the States against these cameras. There's a lot of these clever videos where the people have come out and they say, hey, whatever you do, don't do this. And it's cleverly disguised what you could do if you wanted to get rid of this nuisance in your neighborhood. There's also a huge amount of pushback against the data centers, of course, which we're also tracking.
Yes.
So it's just very interesting that these governments are like, they're trying to create their digital surveillance state, and lo and behold, what a shock! Just like everybody knew was going to happen, the people don't want that, so it's going to play out a little bit differently on both sides of the large body of water that separates us, because we've got an armed population over here, and you don't over there. So I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. Yeah, as I saw a report out of Houston just yesterday morning about flock cameras having been cut down. This is not going anywhere, and from the tea leaves that the mass media is leaving us, I think it's going to be an elevated story, an elevated topic moving forward. Who knows? Maybe the stagecraft security state will come up with some Fed boy Blade Runners to go out and cause some of this problem so that it can become a bigger problem than it already is. And then they can call those people terrorists, and they're taking down, police and military infrastructure or necessary state infrastructure or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if task force are made for it, tax dollars are allocated to it, because we just have to have these AI cameras monitoring every square inch of every little town, wherever we may live.
Conveniently, I don't know if you saw the news, Hesher, but Enrico, the Proud Boys guy, they've been pardoned and let free. Everything's good to go with them. They're doing all right.
Oh, so they got out of the clink and they got their khaki pants back, and
it was just in the news. I don't remember what the official story was, but a judge, somebody got involved. The Proud Boys are all clean and good and everything again. So maybe he could help join the cause and rallying against, I don't know, pick one, the flock cameras, the data centers, ICE immigration tactics, Israel. I mean, they could start infiltrating anything now. So be careful out there, everybody.
Yeah, for the uninitiated, Enrique Tarrio that Ruckus just brought up, a known federal informant and a key member of the Proud Boys.
The final convictions were tossed. The convictions of the last remaining cases in the Jan 6 Proud Boy convictions are gone. Or judge said, nope, don't worry about it. Poof.
No longer useful to the media and the stories. So yeah, of course. All right, Basil, any final shout outs, anything, anywhere you want to point our viewers' attention to for your activities this coming week?
I'll be back on UK Column on Friday. I enjoyed doing 2 shows last week from the studio, and all being well, it's been talked about for a long time, but there's a new show in the offing, starting with 1 hour a week. Current working title, The Briefing Room, with although I don't know if that's got associations with underpants, but the other another possible candidate is The Angle, but Laura Ingraham's got The Angle, hasn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
The Ingraham angle she's got, hasn't she? So
yeah.
So we'll see. But an hour-long show breaking down the news with an interview once a week. And I'm currently, in fact, I've got to leave now to finish my next article for the most excellent UK Column periodical, which you can buy via the shop on the UK Column website. Go to ukcolumn.org and then click shop. I've got an article in the issue that's out now, and I've got to finish my one for the next one, which is on mind control and propaganda. So cheerful stuff.
Oh, excellent. Will you be talking about the recent hearing that we had here in the States?
That's my kickoff point. Yeah,
Okay.
The fact that, because it's 20 years that UK Column has been going, so I introduced the piece by saying 20 years ago, mind control was a paranoid conspiracy theory confined to the lunatic fringe, but now it's the subject of congressional hearings. So
all right.
What's it all about?
Excellent. All right, I'm looking forward to that, Basil. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Hesher. See you soon.
Okay, thanks, Basil. Wow, that's going to be fun. We were just talking about that last week, and we were talking about that on Boiler Room. So I'm looking forward to seeing Basil's take on that. Ruckus, over to you. Any saved rounds or final thoughts for today's Sunday Wire?
That was a good one. Somebody in the chat was talking earlier about the conspiracy theory. So they were like, stop saying conspiracy theory. Well, I say it because I'm allowed to, because I'm actually a paid sponsor for conspiracy theory, the brand label established in 1967, courtesy of the CIA. No, of course, we all understand how that game works. So we're just, but when you try to use these clever workarounds, pattern recognitionist, and people don't understand what you're talking about. When you say conspiracy theorists, they know what you're saying. So it's an unfortunate thing, but it's here to stay. I may not like the microwave, but I use it to heat up my coffee. It is what it is, right? So I have no real saved rounds. Hesher, excuse me. I'm very tired. The reason I'm tired is because we were doing some music stuff last night. So make sure you're heading over to alternatecurrentradio.com to keep track of what we're doing. We, of course, do have our stuff that we do, like the Boiler Room. We've got the Sunday Wire. We post a copy of it over there with a different graphic and some different words maybe on there. You'll also find our friends and colleagues doing their podcasts, like the Mystical American Patriot Society, as well as the Oddcast, the Odd Man Out podcast. And then I make appearances on other programs, usually once a week on Weaponized News with Sam Chaney. I've also been on with Charlie Robinson's Macroaggressions podcast just recently, as well as a very special one I did, a part 3 in a series with our friend and colleague Jamie Hanshaw Dyer. All of that right there. You can find it at the website. And then here's the music one. It's my birthday coming up in a couple weeks. I was born in 1976, so it's been a special time for me to witness this country currently celebrating its 250th birthday, because I'm celebrating my 50th. And then when I was born, they were celebrating their 200th. It was called the Bicentennial. They call people born in 1976 Bicentennial babies. So I'm making a 4-part mixtape series. The first one's out, as you saw there. The second one we just aired last night, Volume 2. In the first one, I covered the years 1976 up to 1988. So basically up to the year that I would have been 12 years old. Part 2 was me, age 13 to 25. So make sure you check that out again at alternatecurrentradio.com if you're into that sort of thing. I keep hitting the wrong button. But anyways, thank you so much for having me, Hesher. Thanks for the checking in with us with the video report, Patrick. We miss you. Stay safe. And we can't wait till you are back. Shout out to the audience. Sorry if we missed any of the chats, comments, or didn't kick out the troll that was bugging you. Maybe next time. I'll remind everybody, as usual, read everything, listen to everybody. Don't believe anything unless you prove it for yourself using your own research. The wise words of one William Cooper. Rest in peace. Ruckus out.
All right. Thank you, Ruckus. Really appreciate you and Basil's participation today. Thank you, folks out there. I did have one question I have to address. U.S. Navy vet WC5QE says Buckethead question mark. Well, yeah, I brought Buckethead up just because Binhead made me think about it, but you will never, ever see Buckethead running for office because he's busy out there shredding on guitar. So if you're not familiar with Buckethead, check him out. Prolific guitar player from the California Bay Area who has worked with, a lot of musicians you might recognize, like Les Claypool from Primus, many others. So that's the that's the Buckethead issue right there. And my goodness, it's what a crazy world we live in, my friends. Goodness gracious. So as we close the program, I think it might be worth remembering that history is rarely as simple or as immediate as the headlines would have us believe. And I think, when we were talking with Ruckus about 50-year-old news clips, that really kind of stuck out to me. And it made me think these stories that we've discussed here today / tonight are not isolated events at all. They're chapters in a much larger transformation taking place before our eyes. The world order that emerged after the Cold War is under increasing strain. And whether one welcomes that change or fears it Denying it will not alter its course. Throughout history, great powers have often mistaken military strength for political performance. Is that where we are right now? I ask you, America. I ask you, NATO countries. Back then, they assured that superior force could indefinitely preserve a particular international order. But how? How is that? The internet was simply a seed, a thought, a maybe, a what if. But history itself reminds us that influence is ultimately measured not only by the ability to project power, but by the ability to inspire confidence, to build legitimacy, to maintain stability. Those are qualities that cannot be imposed from the barrel of a gun or the explosive section of a Tomahawk missile. And we now live in this age, in an age of constant information, instant opinion, and relentless propaganda. One of the most valuable things any of us can do is slow down, question the prevailing narrative, examine events in their proper historical context, and resist the pressure to react before we've had the opportunity to think. That's what they expect of us. Not this audience, not you, my friend. This has always been the mission of Sunday Wire, to look beyond the headlines, challenge assumptions, and encourage a deeper understanding of the forces shaping our world. So on behalf of Patrick Henningsen, reporting from Iran, Basil, Valentine, Ruckus, and everyone here at Alternate Current Radio and 21st Century Wire, thank you for joining us this week. I'm Bryan McClain, sitting in for Patrick Henningsen. And until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and above all, keep questioning the narrative. Good night, and we will see you next time.
Show of secret talks, a cold stealing serpent calls, buildings burn, masking riot shots. It's TV terror, watch the will of God. Hey, here we are, heaven come down. Here we are, come down. The culture coast consuming all our lives. Rejuvenate, resist the pulling dark. False flags and endless wars, mass-born psychosis waged, forced medical tyranny. The complications will soon see.